It was a warm day back in August of 1985 when my mom kneeled down in front of me and said, "Honey, never miss an opportunity." Oh, I followed her outstretched arm to see the women's restroom. To this day, every time I pass a bathroom, I hear her voice in the back of my head, and suddenly, I have to go. It's taken a few years, but I'm finally able to apply those words of wisdom to other areas of my life. Have you ever missed out on an opportunity because you're afraid to take the first step? Most people spend their lives paralyzed by fear. They live other people's lives. They stay in jobs too long. They stay in relationships well past their expiration dates. This leads to regret, to resentment, and sometimes to depression. In order to overcome our fears, we have to first identify what kind of fear is it, and then decide, is it keeping us safe from physical harm, or is it just our ego playing tricks? When I was doing the research for my book, I came across the term feararchy. This was by a man, Karl Albrecht. And he described the 5 types of fear that are biologically ingrained. Interestingly enough, only 3 of these are actually useful to our survival. The first is extinction. This is beyond the fear of death. This is ceasing to exist. The second is mutilation, fearing the loss of a body part. I don't know about you, but I'm really freaked out about ever losing my eyes. And the third is loss of autonomy. This is fear of being paralyzed or entrapped. The last 2 fears are psychological fears. They're unhealthy, if you will. Separation, a fear of abandonment or rejection. And ego death, fear of humiliation. You might be wondering exactly what is the ego? You have this picture, this idea of who you are, and it's burned into your brain. Sometimes you don't even like the person that you've created in there. But you will do everything in your power to protect who you think you are. That's your ego. When you're afraid to speak up in a meeting, when you're afraid to apply for a new job, when you're afraid to ask out that gorgeous server, that's your ego. When you're so terrified of the thought of public speaking that you break into a cold sweat and go hide in a bathroom stall, that is not what I was doing, by the way. That's your ego screaming, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing? Sit down and be quiet, and we can stay safe." How many opportunities have you missed because of this unhealthy psychological fear? The next time that you find yourself saying, "I'm too scared," ask yourself, What kind of fear is this? And is it keeping me safe? Or just keeping me stuck? Do you remember the show What Not to Wear? Right? It was on about 10 years ago. It was on TLC. Two hosts would show up and surprise a bad dresser. And then they would take them on a whirlwind shopping spree and a full makeover. I loved this show. I watched it all the time, every episode, multiple times, and I dreamed of the day that Stacey London would show up at my house, rip my closet apart, donate all of my clothes to charity, and then take me shopping. It never happened. Unfortunately, my wardrobe wasn't bad enough. But I still learned a lot from the show. Not just that I'm too old to wear socks with animals on them. I still do. I learned actual life lessons. Do you remember what Stacey London's least favorite word was? Yep, somebody said it. Her least favorite word was comfortable. Whenever somebody would defend an outfit by saying, "It's comfy," Stacey would lose her mind. That's because comfortable doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean you're in a good place. It doesn't even mean that there's any redeeming qualities. It just means that you're too damn scared to change. I say that because I've been there. I've been comfortable in relationships, in jobs, and in a Deftones sweatshirt that was getting a bit threadbare. Those relationships destroyed my self-confidence. The jobs kept me from recognizing my full potential. And that's both emotional and earning. And the sweatshirt, let's just say that I might be a little further along in life if my style hadn't been homeless chic. Comfortable is not a testament to how happy or successful you are. Comfortable is just the first stop on a spectrum of pain. It's not good. It's just not painful enough that you're willing to make a change. Comfortable is a state we get stuck in. It's like quicksand, which got mentioned a lot today. You start out with one toe in, and suddenly you're sinking further and further and further. I wasn't happy in my marriage. I wasn't satisfied. I was just comfortable. It wasn't until my husband got arrested that it became painful enough for me to pull myself out of the quicksand and face my fear of being alone. Will you wait until your situation becomes unbearable? Or will you face your fear and make a change on your terms? Now, I have a couple of suggestions that I've used how to get out of this paralysis. Would it be okay if I shared them with you? The first one is called a regret hangover. Not to be confused with a tequila hangover. And I know the difference. When I was going through my divorce, I needed a break. I was talking to a friend of mine in New York, Justin, and he told me that he and his dad were going to Moab, Utah for a week to camp and off-road and hike. And did I want to come along with them? Yeah, I did. I packed up my car and I drove up to Moab. It was on our second day, and we had been hiking for hours. I was weak, I was exhausted, and I was ready to throw in the towel. Actually, that's a pretty good summation of my life in general at that point. I was 5 feet from the top of the mountain when I gave up. Just flat out refused to move another inch. Until Justin's dad held his hand out and said to me, "Sheryl, if you don't come up here, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life." Yikes. Okay. I gathered up every ounce of strength that I had. I put one foot on a rock, grabbed his hand, and scrambled up the rest of the mountain. It was worth it. The view was amazing. And every day, I'm grateful that I don't have to live with that regret. His advice actually sticks with me. It's become the litmus test. Every time I have to make a decision, I go back to that thought. If I don't do something, if I don't accept a challenge, how am I going to feel tomorrow? What about 20 years from now? I'm asking myself, am I allowing unhealthy fear, the fear of rejection, humiliation, failure, to run my life? Every time I walk onto a stage, there is a voice screaming in the back of my head. What the hell are you doing? This is terrifying. Why don't you just go sit down and we can be safe? But compared to the regret that I'll feel if I don't get up here, it's not quite as scary. Are you allowing your fears to control you? What if the next time you had to make a decision, you applied the regret litmus test? It could be something as small as whether to join a friend for belly dancing class, or as large as whether to travel to a different city and accept a new job. If you can wake up tomorrow and feel that you're okay having missed the opportunity, pass it up. But if you know that that's going to eat away at you for the rest of your life, face your fear and go do it. The second tool that I use to overcome this paralysis is realizing that if I don't take the opportunity, someone else will. Raise your hand if, when something good happens to a friend of yours, you're happy for them. Yeah, for like 2 minutes. And then you're jealous that it didn't happen to you. It doesn't make us bad people. It's perfectly normal to compare yourself to others. About a year ago, I went to see Michael Franti at Brooklyn Bowl. He's one of my favorite musicians, and I was looking forward to this for months. During the second song, he looked out into the audience, picked a woman out, and called her up on stage to sing with him. What an amazing opportunity. She made it up to the stage, went to accept the mic, and freaked out. She threw the mic back at the stagehand and hightailed it out of there. That woman missed an amazing opportunity because she allowed her fear to control her. Guess who the next person he called up on stage was? Oh yeah, I sang my butt off. Not well, but I still did. When you miss an opportunity, when you let it pass on by, it doesn't just vanish. It just moves on to the next person. If you can't bear the thought of that coworker who does subpar work and spends most of their time by the candy machine, if you can't bear the thought of them getting the promotion, don't miss the opportunity to apply for it yourself. If you can't bear the thought of that friend who you've had feelings for forever, if you can't bear the thought of them marrying someone else, don't miss the opportunity to tell them how you feel. H. Jackson Brown, author of Life's Little Instruction Book, once said, "Be bold and courageous. When you look back on your life, you will regret the things you didn't do more than the things you did." If you're feeling stuck in your life, face your fear. Stop drowning in comfort zone quicksand. And never miss an opportunity. Now, if you'll excuse me.
All right. Thank you, Sheryl. Outstanding. Keep it going for her. You're going to talk about the book?
I'm a shaker.
Do the handshake, do the handoff.
Here we go.
Fantastic. Very nice. All right.